When we last met, we were discussing how to not use this one here, this brush, to paint because it doesn't take into consideration any of the pixel information. It just lays down some flat paint. So we are going to make sure, I'm going to go up in my history panel, make sure that we have the mixer brush. The mixer brush is quite possibly the coolest thing that Adobe's come out with in a while. I have a Wacom tablet that I'm using so you can see the brush preview. You can see the way that it changes when with density and with the angle of it. So it's kind of cool. It can sense how hard I'm pushing and it can sense the angle. So I would suggest checking out a Wacom tablet and giving this a go. All right, first thing we need to do is go to our background copy. Nope, underpainting, sorry. Go to your underpainting, big shapes. Must have sample all layers on. And I'm going to pick a very wet, light mix. I'm going to turn this off for 1 second so I can give you, not quite sure what I did there. Huh, that's all right, we'll figure it out. Make my brush bigger by using the brackets, which are next to the letter P on the keyboard. With the mixer brush selected, hold down I, keep it depressed, click, and then let go, and you are back into the mixer brush again. You don't actually leave the tool. And then with very wet, heavy mix, we're going to start making big shapes. And it's not the fastest tool, right? It does take a lot of memory. How does this look different immediately from the brush that we used in the beginning? Yeah, it picks up all of that pixel information below. Now, you have a ton of very cool options. You want to stick to these brush tips, right, that have this little nub on them. So I'm going to grab that one. And for underpainting, you are just going to make some big, ugly shapes. And you're going to say, that I'm losing all my detail. No, that's great. For underpainting, it is just shapes. It should be like 1 shape, 2 shape, 3 shape. This actually is this is going to get a little tricky because it loses shape in here. But you just want to lay down the color. So it's going to look very primitive. Look at the difference in brush types. This was the first brush I had. This is the second brush. Let me try a different brush tip. You are going to have so much fun with this. And you can see in the little preview how the brush is reacting to the Wacom. Okay. So let's turn off our background copy. And you can see that this brush doesn't have the same density that does, and you may have to go over it a couple of times. But if you zoom in, which is Command plus, you can see how beautiful this is blending. It's really lovely. So let's see, we've also got this one. Oh, this is a favorite. Hit I, keep I depressed, click to resample. I think we may need a bigger brush because we're just trying to define the shapes. So next to the letter P, brackets, and give it a minute. You always want to check and make sure that you are on the right layer, on the underpainting layer. This brush is not being the perfect brush I want, so let's maybe go to this one. This looks pretty good. Okay, I'm just kind of defining him. I'm not worried about getting all the detail right now. I'm worried about getting a red-ish blob so that I can start to build on that. brush a little smaller. Again, this tool does take a little bit of time, so you do need to be patient. Let me show you an example of some really beautiful digital paintings that I had this summer, and you can see some of the structure. So you might say, hey, I feel like this looks really bad. Well, it's just the underpainting. This is her underpainting. All it tells her is there are green shapes here. They're circular. Look at the background. White, gray, gray. They're just circular images. Okay. The next one is intermediate. That's where a lot of the magic happens. So that is the blocking, or the big shapes. That's the intermediate. This is the intermediate by itself. You can see that things are definitely round. She is starting to add highlights, shadows, starting to work with the positioning, what's in front, what's in back. And then she added the details. So let's see the details. She really put where the light touched the grapes. Okay, does that help when you get to see it like that?
Mm-hmm.
Let me show you. Oh yeah, my class this summer was amazing at digital painters. So check this one out. This was in the style of Van Gogh. So this is the photograph, and he put a blue background in, blocked it. Again, blocking says this is green, this is yellow, this is green, this is yellow, this is pink. It's supposed to look very, very basic. If you turn that off, you can see the intermediate. We're using different brushes. He went in and gave it the quality of Van Gogh's brushwork, and then he added some details. And look how beautiful that turned out. Just really lovely. Excuse me. So for the underpainting, you want to just establish the shape. This is a red shape. This is a yellow shape. This is a red shape, yellow shape. This is a darker shape. This is a lighter shape. Just kind of keep going. I'm not worried too much about establishing roundness or light or anything like that, just establishing a base. And you can experiment with different brushes. Right now I have the choice of very wet, heavy mix. And in the next video, I'm going to run through what a couple of these different brushes do, so the brush options do. Right now I have it on very wet, heavy mix, so it's picking up a lot of the color below and mixing it to create more solidity. All right. But you can see that's starting to come along. So what you would do is just finish setting up those shapes and setting up the foundation, and when you're done with that, turn that layer off and go to the intermediate layer, and this is when you would start to zoom in and start adding detail, a sense of roundness, right, and a sense of visual weight. Okay? All right.